educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach. All right. Hello, everybody. Let's open up the doors to Pharmacist Friday on Daily with Doc. My name is Becca Dukes. As the hostess of this program, I am honored to be able to bring to you information that simplifies things, because we do not have to make it difficult, folks. In fact, I think there's like this epidemic of making everything epically difficult. Well, that's not necessary, and you're going to be in for a treat because, folks, health is simple, and it doesn't have to be difficult. We've made it difficult, and we've complicated it. But hey, I love U-turns, so let's make sure that you and your friends know how simple it actually is. This program is being sponsored by Daily with Doc. As an independent distributor of longevity and also a leader in the Critical Health News line and Director of Student Services for the Institute of Holistic Health, it is my honor and privilege to present to you the one and only pharmacist that I know that really takes this whole health into serious perspective. Okay. So in pharmacy school, they teach about nutrition. That's something that's different than in regular medical school, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And the pharmacist that we have on with us today, Pharmacist Ben Fuchs, has really been taking this nutrition thing to heart in sharing the message and making it simple so people understand that they can be their own health authority and be empowered as an individual and just keep it simple. So without further ado, I just want to thank Pharmacist Ben Fuchs for being here with us on another Pharmacist Friday. Hello, Ben. Welcome.
Hello, Rebecca. So nice to see you. Thank you for Saturday. We had a wonderful time. And I hope everybody was inspired, because that's what it's all about. Inspiration. We're not in the product business, the network marketing business, the health business. We're in the inspiration business. We're in the hope business. We want people to be inspired when they interact with us, inspired to take control of their health, control of their lives. We want people to be their own health authorities. I hate when people make me an authority. I want you to be your own authority. I want our customers and our clients and our patients, our loved ones to be their own health authority. And that's where keeping everything simple is so important. The medical model has got more drugs and devices and protocols and hospitals and surgical procedures that they do, and we're sicker than ever before. I used to go to the medical library in the old days before the internet. I'd have to go to the medical library to do my research, and I'd pull out a stack of books and Xerox them all and have stacks of copies and have to run down and pay the parking meter. And it was just this big nightmare. And I remember thinking to myself how amazing it was in the medical library, how many books and journals and articles and publications there were, how much information we had juxtaposed with how sick we are as a culture. We got all this information. We know about all the little molecular chemical reactions, molecular reactions, and genetic transformations and what every gene codes for. We know so much about how the body works from a cellular molecular perspective, but we're still sick, very sick. We're the sickest culture that ever lived. Our life expectancy is actually dropping the last few years. Diabetes is going through the roof. Some 50 to 60% of the world, and as well as Americans, are going to be diabetic by the year 2050. That's over 60%. You got 60% of Americans have at least one chronic disease, 40% of Americans have at least two, and 20% have at least 5 chronic diseases, 5 of them. we got a serious health problem here. And at the same time, we know so much. So what gives? What gives is that we are overthinking. This is the real health issue that we have. And it's a health issue that smart people suffer from more than not so smart people. I call this health challenge overthinkitis. And that's what we suffer from. We overthink. The fact of the matter is our bodies have evolved over the course of 2 million years to heal itself. This healing process is built in to every one of the 100 trillion cells of the body via a process called homeostasis, which some of you may have heard of. Homeo means the same. Stasis means to stay. Homeostasis refers to the fact that the body likes to stay the same. So when things go up, it tends to pull them down. When things go down, it tends to pull them up. This healing process, this homeostatic process is known as healing. When something needs to be fixed, the body knows how to do it as long as it has the raw materials. And that's really where it becomes key. Now, you know, I've talked about the triangle disease for years. Over the last couple of months, we've simplified it to the points of disease, the plane of disease, the dots of disease. We have to come up with a catchier term. None of these really float my boat here. None of these really tickle my fancy. But the point is there's 2 points. That's it, people. The job, the main job, or one of the main jobs, arguably the main job of the body, is to get energy and direct that energy. Nothing else happens without energy. Everything's energy. Nothing happens. Energy is a really weird word. If I asked you to define energy, you probably would have a hard time defining it, because it really is hard to define what energy is. But in physics, energy is defined as the capacity to do work. And the body depends on energy because it has to work. So its main job, or arguably its main job, is to get energy from food and then distribute that energy to the living parts of the body, which are called the cells. I think it's the main job. There's other jobs that the body does, including healing and immunity and running the various and pumping the blood, etc. But really, everything depends on energy. So you could say the main job of the body is to get energy, to get it from food and then distribute it. The system that gets energy from food is the digestive system. And that energy from food is distributed through the body via the circulatory system. So you got that digestive system and you got the circulatory system, the blood. You got the digestive system and you got the blood. Once the food is put into the blood, it gets converted into a form that the body can use called sugar. Sugar is the form of energy that the body uses. So the main job of the body is to get energy from food, turn it into sugar, and then distribute it. Now, along with the energy from food, there are carriers of energy, and those carriers of energy are called the mighty 90 essential nutrients. The mighty 90 essential nutrients carry the energy. So you've got three main systems here. You've got the digestive system, you've got the blood sugar system, and you've got the blood, the circulatory system. Those are the 3 things that you got to focus on. We say all disease is cell disease. There's no disease that you can think of. There's no disease that exists that's not a cellular problem. All disease involves the cell. The body's made up of cells and stuff that comes out of the cells. Once the stuff comes out of the cells, that ship has sailed. You can't fix the stuff once it's out of the cells. You got to fix tomorrow's stuff. You can fake it. And this is what plastic surgery does. This is what doctor protocols like ablations and surgical procedures do. They try to fix the stuff that came out of the cells because they can't really do anything with the cells. A cell is not responsive to the doctor's medicine. A cell only takes what it's been accustomed to, what it's been prepared for over the last 2 million years, or the last really 3.5 billion years that it's been around. The last 3.5 billion years, cells have developed a menu from which they like to eat. There's no drugs on the menu. There's only nutrition and oxygen on the menu. Nutrition includes water, includes sugar. There's nutrition and there's oxygen on the menu, period. No drugs are on the menu. There's nothing in the doctor's magical bag of tricks that's on the menu, and this accounts for the failure of modern medicine. Modern medicine cannot address the cell, but it doesn't matter because we can, by making sure that the energy comes into the body through the digestive system, is converted appropriately into the blood sugar system, and then gets distributed through the blood. So we say all disease is cell disease, but all cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. The only thing that should get into the blood are foods, or not foods, but the components of foods, the nutrients of foods, and oxygen. That's the only thing from the outside that should be getting into the blood from the inside. Components from foods and oxygen. However, over the last 100 years, 150 years, if you really want to go far all the way back, you could make a case for 10,000 years, which in the perspective of a 2 million year old body is like one or 2 seconds to midnight. If all of the 2 million years of the body's life on Earth was 2 million years, and that's really when we turned into Homo habilis from monkeys 2 million years ago. If you turn that 2 million years into a 24-hour clock, the last 100 years, or even the last 10,000 years, is 1 minute to 12, or even 10 seconds to 12. So really, it's only been very recent that we've completely changed the way we eat, so that the foods we get into the body now are completely different. The body wants one thing, we're giving it another. This is why foods are so important. Now, the digestive system isn't only supposed to extract energy from food, it also detoxifies. The digestive system is also your detoxification system. So the digestive system is not only extracting energy from food, it's also detoxifying and eliminating. That includes the gallbladder and the liver and the intestine. The digestive system is responsible for extracting nutrients from food so they can be converted into energy via the blood sugar system, and detoxification. Between the detoxification role and the energy absorption role, you have the main role, the two main things the digestive system does. You can see how critical they are. You're talking about poisons and you're talking about energy. The reason this is so important is because while the digestive system and the blood sugar system are the keys to health, the keys to the health of the body, and the keys to understanding the disease process of the body, most people don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear about food. I'm not talking about present company here. I'm talking about the people that we're talking to. They don't want to hear they can't have their French fries, they can't have their ice cream. And this is not to beat anybody up. This is just to say there are ulterior motives to eating. Lions don't eat when they're depressed. Animals in the wild don't eat that when they're not hungry. They stop eating when they're full. Only domesticated animals, including human beings and our domesticated pets, eat for non-physical reasons. Animals in the wild don't. Domesticated animals do. We are suffering from domestication when it comes to our foods, because if we just stopped eating and when we were hungry, when we were full, and didn't eat when we weren't hungry, and we only ate foods that were designed to run a healthy body, every animal has specific foods that it's supposed to eat, we wouldn't have any problems. But we don't, because we eat emotionally. And to make matters worse, there are insidious, perhaps demonic forces that have figured out how to tap in to those emotional and mental drives for us to eat. And I'm telling you, I said this for years, and I'm going to say it again. When you see those golden arches, you should be giving it the finger. They hate you. They want you dead. And they want to extract every penny from you first. They want your mother sick. They want your kids sick. Now, I'm being facetious here, but that's how we have to look at it. Haagen-Dazs wants you dead. They want you to have an autoimmune disease. They want you interacting with the medical model. And it's no accident, by the way, that the food companies and the drug companies are owned by the same people. And there's a good reason for that, because food has a medical quality that can be manipulated. And so we are being tweaked. Our strings are being pulled. We should resent this. When we see McDonald's, we should resent them. A healthy culture will never have a McDonald's. Just yesterday, an article came out on ultra-processed food and its impact on health and longevity. You know, there's a no crap, Sherlock, you know, if you know what I'm saying. Duh. Of course it does. So we have to take that into our control. Now, while nobody wants to hear about food, and again, present company excluded, people don't like to hear about food. They don't like to hear they shouldn't have the French fries. We feel guilty about it because we know intuitively that we should be doing it, but the drive is too hardwired to do it. But here's the thing. Our food represents a leverage point, a point of power. And it's not that you can't eat the French fries, but if you have arthritis, eliminating the French fries represents a point of power. It represents a place where you can be liberated from the shackles of the disease process, where you can be liberated from the prison of the medical model, where you can be liberated from the tyranny of medication and surgical procedures and suffering, just flat out suffering. It's not that, you know, you're a bad person, you're a good person. This represents a point of power for us. And so if you have a chronic degenerative disease, I'm telling you right now, if you work at these 2 points, the blood sugar system and the digestive system, which both represent parts of food because blood sugar is affected by food and obviously digestion is affected by food. If you just work on those 2 points via food modifications, changing the way you eat, eating less food, changing the proportions of the macronutrients, that is the protein and fats and carbohydrates, getting more protein and more fats and less sugar, and making sure you're on a micronutrient supplement program that addresses digestive health, that addresses the blood sugar system, and that provides the body, the cells, with the mighty 90 essential nutrients. I'm giving you a 100% guarantee. 100%. Number one, because it's logical. And number two, I can say this because it's logical. And number two, because I've seen it so many times. Every day I've seen this. I'm giving you a 100% guarantee, not 99.999, 100% guarantee. If you do this correctly, by working with the digestive system, by working with the blood sugar system, and by addressing the 4 dimensions of health, the spiritual, mental, and emotional, and physical, which you don't talk about anywhere near enough, in my opinion, I'm giving you a 100% guarantee your health challenges will begin to resolve. And the sicker you are, the faster they'll resolve. The more weight you need to lose, the faster it'll drop off. The lousier your skin is, the faster it will turn around. The worse your acne is, the faster it will disappear. The more dramatic your movement disorders are, the faster they can begin to resolve themselves. Now, it may take you a long time, depending on how far you are down the rabbit hole, to completely resolve, but you can begin the process immediately. Today, within a second, you're a decision away. Your customers, your children, your parents, your loved ones are one decision away from beginning to heal, from beginning to reverse their chronic diseases simply by addressing what's coming into the body, which of course is food, and the 4 dimensions of healing. Simple as that. In fact, it's too simple. It's too simple because the tendency is to think, that's too simple. My doctor never told me that. If it was that easy, everybody would be doing it. There's this tendency to think it's too simple. Well, if you're serious about your healing process, and really that's what it takes. People sometimes say to me, what is the one thing you need to do to heal? And I tell them, the one thing you need to do to heal, to recover your health status, is willingness. The willingness to do it. That's all you need, is the willingness to do it. So the digestive system first, and then the blood sugar system second. Not because I'm some kind of do-gooder, you know, David Avocado Wolf Health guy, Mr. Organic guy. You know, that's not me. This is just logic. It's as simple as logic. Now, as far as the digestive system goes, the first thing you want to do, if you have a health challenge, the first thing you want to do is stop. Boom, put the brakes on by fasting. Fast doesn't have to be a long time. It could be even in between meals, an intermittent fast, but ideally for one day. Just one day of fasting, you'll start to notice that if you have a health challenge, a chronic health challenge, you'll start to notice that it's getting better. Now, depending on how far it is, it may take 2 days, but you'll start to notice it's getting better once you start to stop the stream of toxicity that's entering into the body. Once you fast, the body starts to clean itself. A process called autophagy kicks in. Autophagy is literally self-cleaning, self-eating, technically. Auto means self, phagy means eating. The body starts to eat all the bad guys, starts to eat the defective cells, starts to destroy the bad cells. And that happens even when between meals. That's how cool the body is. Between meals, the body starts to heal. If you can extend that process out, you have a longer time. You're giving the body a longer time to heal. When you fast, the body starts to eliminate things through the digestive tract. We've talked about this before. The migrating motor complex, it is keyed in to food and not food. When there's food in, the migrating motor complex stops or is suppressed or inhibited so that you can absorb the nutrients from the food. When you stop eating, the migrating motor complex kicks in and food starts to be eliminated. Fasting is the best thing somebody with constipation can ever do. If you know anybody who has chronic constipation, have them fast for 2 days. Say, how would that help? Well, the migrating motor complex kicks in when you're not eating. That's what that rumbling in your tummy is. Let the rumble happen. That's the migrating motor complex kicking in. And then, of course, fasting stops the stream of toxicity that's entering into the blood through a leaky gut, through the intestine. When we say, by the way, that all disease involves the digestive system, the nexus is leaky gut. You can have digestive system problems at the level of the stomach, involving stomach acid, involving enzyme deficiencies. You can have it at the level of the gallbladder, involving bile, at the level of the liver, involving bile. You can have it at the level of the intestine. But the key is the juncture between the intestinal wall and the blood. Toxicity in the digestive system through the wrong kinds of foods, through poor processing of foods, through hormones that are not being cleared out of the body, particularly estrogen, will inflame the lining of the intestine, allowing foods to go through. You've all heard of this, leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut. When I talk about all disease, about the digestive system being related to all disease, I'm talking about leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability syndrome. Every single chronic degenerative disease can be backtracked to leaky gut and intestinal permeability syndrome. You don't need to have a fancy test to determine it. This leaky gut and intestinal permeability syndrome, or intestinal permeability issues, is because of the wrong foods. And that includes, by the way, fried, processed fats. Doc, he's so brilliant. He said so many brilliant things throughout his career, at least throughout the 30 years that I've been listening to him, following his stuff. But one of the most brilliant things he understands is the idea about fats. Is Doc on the call here?
Yes, he is.
Doc, hats off. Inflammatory fats are deadly. Doc, I heard him say, I love this. He said suicide cholesterol. He called it suicide cholesterol. I love it. I was listening to him yesterday talking about cholesterol. You guys, cholesterol is your body's most important molecule. Not arguable. It's the most. It's the difference between you and a fern plant. Cholesterol is the molecule of animals, the molecule of neurology, the molecule of ambulatory, the molecule of stress management, the molecule of growth. The stupidity, the utter medical stupidity of shutting down the production of this vital molecule is iconic. It's a poster child for the stupidity of how we treat the body from a medical perspective. But as Doc pointed out, cholesterol, as important as it is, can become incredibly dangerous when it's cooked. When it's fried, it turns into something called oxycholesterol. When fats become cooked, when fats become heated, fats are very unstable. Fats are so important because they're like, think in your mind's eye, if you're ever, when you were a little kid, if you took two magnets and stuck them together, you would feel like a tension between those magnets. You feel kind of like a push between those magnets. When fats become fried, the magnets that make up the fats flip out and they become very reactive. Reactive fats are super inflammatory, all fats, including cholesterol. These inflammatory fats wreak havoc on cells. They are among, perhaps they are the most toxic molecules in the body, inflammatory fats, or if you prefer, oxidized fats, because that's technically what they are. They're oxidized fats, oxidized cholesterol. Biochemists will call them lipid peroxides. And these lipid peroxides and oxidized fats are incredibly toxic. Yet we all love French fries. We all love pizza. We all love nachos. We all love our fried fats, deep fried turkeys and deep fried potatoes and deep fried Snickers bars. Yes, deep fried Snickers bars and deep fried Twinkies. We can't get enough of it because of the body's need for fat. We're manipulated by our body's need for fat. Once you get on the ultimate EFAs, what you'll notice is you don't crave fats as much because we're manipulated because we're not getting the good fats. So as far as leaky gut goes, French fries are deadly. Oxidized cholesterol is deadly. As important as cholesterol is, once it becomes oxidized, once it becomes cooked, it becomes deadly. And by the way, one of your best friends to protect yourself from oxidized rancid fats, and by the way, oxidized means rancid and rancid means oxidized, is the ultimate selenium. Your ultimate selenium protects you from rancid fats. Beyond Tangy Tangerine will protect you from rancid fats. Your ultimate daily will protect you from rancid fats, oxidized fats. That's just as an aside. So staying away from rancid oxidized fats is incredibly important. Am I saying not to have French fries? No, I'm not saying not to have French fries. I'm saying if you have arthritis or if you have Parkinson's disease or you have Alzheimer's or you have a health challenge, an autoimmune challenge, avoiding French fries represents power. It represents freedom. It represents independence. It represents liberty. I'm not saying don't have French fries because you're a bad person and because French fries are bad for you. And, you know, you don't want to get into this idea of I'm your mother and, you know, eat your vegetables. You don't want to get that. Nobody wants to hear that. This represents power. So you work on the digestive system first. Do a food diary, eliminate problem foods, stay away from, obviously, the bad foods. There's never, ever, 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 ever any time when donuts are good for you. There's no ever. And there's a whole list of foods that make up the bulk of our caloric intake that are just they're never supposed to be eaten, but that's what we indulge in. And when you're talking about foods, I hope you get the idea how powerful foods are. When you're talking about foods, it's not binary. It's not like all or none. You could be 50%, eliminate 50% of the bad stuff that you're eating, and you'll get 50% better. Eliminate 20%, you'll get 20% better. Eliminate 10%, you'll get 10% better. You can choose. It's on a spectrum. If you eliminate them entirely, you get 100% better. If you eliminate halfway, you get halfway better. You eliminate 10%, 10% better. So say somebody says, I just have to have my pizza. I can't live without pizza. So instead of having pizza every day, have it 3 days a week. Or instead of having 3 days a week, have it once a week. So once a week, have it once a month. You can be flexible with it. You get to choose. Obviously, it's better to eliminate it entirely, but eliminate what you can. You'll get better. Cutting your intake of bad foods by half will give you benefit. It won't give you as much benefit, but it'll give you some benefit. So you have to work on the digestive system. Then you work on the blood sugar system. Cholesterol is made by the body when the body thinks it's supposed to be building. The body and the cells of the body are sensing energy. When they see energy in the body, they say, we're going to grow. When they see no energy, they don't grow. They don't move. Cells don't divide. They don't produce collagen. We have tricked our body into thinking it's supposed to grow. We have tricked our bodies into thinking that it's supposed to be, that cells are supposed to be dividing. These division signals and these growth signals come in through sugar. Elevated cholesterol is a blood sugar problem. Elevated cholesterol is a blood sugar problem. Diabetes and high cholesterol go hand in hand. And then, because blood sugar, elevated blood sugar, through a bunch of very fascinating mechanisms, will impair cardiovascular health, the doctors, the medical model will tell you it's the cholesterol when it's really the sugar that's causing the cholesterol and the heart disease. You want to drop your cholesterol, get on the healthy blood sugar pack. It's no accident that the same nutrients that help the body process sugar lower cholesterol and blood fats for that matter. If any physician tells you you need to be on a statin drug and you don't want to be on that statin drug, get on the healthy blood sugar pack. Get on the sweeties. Get on the ultimate niacin. Get on the ultimate selenium. Use your blood sugar strategies to lower your cholesterol. Cholesterol goes up because the body thinks it's supposed to be growing, and cholesterol is a growth molecule. You don't want to shut down a growth molecule. You want to shut down the reason, the fake reason the body thinks it's supposed to be growing. So you lower your blood sugar. You stabilize your insulin. Just those two moves alone, in conjunction with SMAP, spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, and a mighty 90 essential nutrient program like the Healthy Start Pack, 100% guarantee you will begin to resolve your health challenges, whether they're arthritis or whether they're Parkinson's disease or whether they're autoimmunity, whatever. And as far as cholesterol goes, there's no such thing as bad and good cholesterol, unless you want to say cooked cholesterol or oxycholesterol is bad cholesterol. Cholesterol is just cholesterol. It's just a molecule. The reason people say it's good and bad is because the so-called good stuff is going into the liver to get stored, and the so-called bad stuff is going out of the liver to make things, including all of your sex hormones and vitamin D and cortisol and cell membranes and myelin sheaths and all this wonderful stuff cholesterol does for us. It's not good or bad. They noticed that when people had high HDL, they sometimes had heart attacks, but sometimes they didn't. They noticed when they had LDL, they sometimes didn't have heart attacks and sometimes they did. There's no clear-cut association between HDL and LDL and good cholesterol and bad cholesterol. These are arbitrary numbers that are used. Sugar, however, is intimately connected to cardiovascular health issues. Sugar is intimately related to kidney issues. And when I say sugar, I mean blood sugar. Elevated blood sugar and elevated insulin are behind everything, just like the digestive system is behind everything when it comes to chronic health challenges, which means all of our health challenges can be reduced down to two major systems, the blood sugar system and the digestive system. All disease is cell disease. All cell disease is preceded by dirty blood. Blood becomes dirty through the digestive system via foods and sugar. And make no mistake about it, sugar in the blood is dangerous stuff. That's why you have an insulin system to pull the sugar out of the blood. Do you know if you're healthy, you'll have around a teaspoon of sugar in all 4 liters of blood, 4 or 5 liters of blood. It's about a gallon of blood, say, roughly. You have about a teaspoon of sugar in a gallon of blood, a little over a gallon of blood. If you're healthy, actually less. If it goes over a teaspoon, you're in bad shape. When we drink a Coke, all of a sudden we've introduced 12 teaspoons of sugar into our blood. What do you think that does over the course of time? So just by eliminating those 2 points and getting on a good micronutrient supplement program like the Healthy Start Pack and making sure you're addressing the 4 dimensions of healing, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. There's not a single health challenge that will not resolve itself. 100% begin to resolve itself 100% guarantee. Now, one more thing that I was going to say about this whole digestive system process. The digestive system runs from your brain, believe it or not. That's the start of your digestive system, is your brain, to the other end. But the real key is at the level of the stomach, the pancreas, the liver and the gallbladder, and the small intestine. And we can talk about this on the next time we get together, but I'd love to address the critical importance of bile, which is probably the most underrated fluid in the body, and a specific toxin that gets into the bloodstream through the intestine that amplifies inflammation and immunity, and that's called histamine. And we can do that on another Daily with Doc program, maybe next Friday. But those two elements have to be focused on when it comes to focusing on digestive wellness: the liver, gallbladder, and bile, and histamine, and its relationship to immune health, inflammatory and immune health challenges, which of course are all health challenges. And histamine, by the way, that comes in through foods, through bacterial secretions, and through the body itself in response to toxicity that enters into the bloodstream, is one of the major reasons why people have chronic Lyme disease, chronic COVID, chronic health challenges that don't seem to resolve no matter what you're doing. People who say, I'm allergic to everything. People who have hay fever and pollen allergies are dealing with histamine overload and activation of the cells that make histamine, which are called mast cells. Anytime you have unexplained inflammatory problems, you're dealing with digestive issues and histamine, and almost all cancers, especially reproductive cancers and female reproductive cancers, involve histamine as well. We can talk about histamine and bile the next time we talk. And then I also, you'll notice, we haven't talked about the third point on the triangle disease. I've reduced it down to 2, but while energy comes into the body through the digestive system, and while it's distributed to the cells by sugar through the blood system, the third point of the triangle disease, cortisol and thyroid, determine which cells and which systems are going to get the energy. Thyroid under normal conditions, cortisol under emergency conditions. Roughly speaking, the two main ways the body responds to the environment, either with fear or with love, with stress or with rest, are mediated by the adrenal glands and the thyroid. And we can talk about that as well. But in the interest of simplifying, digestion and blood sugar, digestion and blood sugar. Watch what you're eating. Make sure you're keeping your blood sugar stable, eating going low glycemic, low calorie, and getting on a solid micronutrient supplement program that allows your body to utilize the protein, fats, and carbohydrates. This is another one of Dr. Wallach's brilliant insights, was the idea that we were not getting enough micronutrients in order to help the body handle the macronutrients, the proteins and the fats and carbohydrates. And that's the simplicity of health. I'll be happy to take questions. Hopefully that's inspiring to you guys. And that's really what I want to be. I want everybody who hears this message to be inspired to begin today to start to become their own health authorities.
All right. Thank you so much, Ben. So I have a few questions myself, and then we do have hands raised for some questions. In the very beginning, you said the body uses sugar for energy, but we want to keep our blood sugars in control. So can you explain a little bit more about, is it the types of sugar?
Amount. No.
The amount?
Sugar is glucose. It's the amount. We're giving the body too much energy. The body doesn't want too much energy. The body wants just the right amount of energy, and that energy is tightly regulated. And we have a hormone system that controls that. Under normal circumstances, the body won't have too much energy. There won't be too much energy in the blood because insulin, will take that energy and take that sugar, that energy, and pull it out of the blood. Insulin, by the way, is not just for blood sugar. Insulin's for all nutrition. Insulin's a feeding substance. And the body will grow when it senses there's lots of food and there's lots of sugar around. So when you eat sugar, the right amount of sugar, it'll get distributed, and what's not distributed will get stored in fat cells. Insulin will take the sugar and store some in the muscle, mostly in the fat. But we are flooding the body with so much energy, so much sugar. We're revving up the system. Our systems are so revved up from a biochemical perspective. This is why cells divide rapidly. When that happens inside blood vessels, when cells divide really rapidly inside blood vessels, you get hypertension or you get kidney disease. When cells divide really rapidly, they're more prone towards carcinogenesis and mutations. When cells divide really rapidly, you'll get cysts and you'll get boils and you'll get nodules. That's why I always say all nodules, all cysts, all excess growth, skin tags need to be backtracked to rapid cell division, which in turn is backtracked to excess amounts of energy in the body. We're giving the body way too much energy. Way too much energy, and the body doesn't know what to do with it. Now, like I say, we have insulin, and that takes the energy and puts it into the cells and stores it, but there's too much. So eventually, the body has this, because the body's always lowering things and raising things to adjust, eventually, the body turns down the dial on the insulin signal. Because there's so much insulin around, the body eventually the cells will stop listening to insulin. And so more insulin gets secreted, and then eventually the cells stop listening to that. That's called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is also known as insulin resistance syndrome, because there's a lot of things that are associated with insulin resistance syndrome. Affects everything. It affects the liver. It affects the brain. It affects the bones. It affects the skin. It affects the digestive system. It affects the pancreas. It affects the cardiovascular system. It affects body fat, everything. In fact, insulin resistance syndrome affects everything. Everything in the body is called metabolism. So they changed the name to insulin resistance syndrome to metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is everything syndrome. Metabolism is everything. Metabolism is the sum total of chemistry in the body. So you might as well call it sum total of chemistry syndrome. It's everything. You know, one of my favorite spices these days is, I grew up in New York, so we used to get bagels. My favorite bagels were everything bagels, right? You ever seen everything bagel? Spice. And so now they have everything spices. You can take the spice. You actually don't need them on eggs. You put them on eggs. You can put them on fish. You can put them on your steak. You have everything spice, right? So they have everything spice. Well, metabolic syndrome is everything syndrome. Metabolism's everything. It affects all of it, and it's all blood sugar. Everybody says this. I did a talk for longevity in the year 2002. It was in New Orleans. I don't know if anybody, Phyllis, you probably remember that talk in New Orleans, right? In 2002. I know Doc remembers it. Can't believe that was 20. Can you believe that? It was 22 years ago. Oh, my God.
2
and
years.
So I did the talk on Syndrome X. Because when I first heard about this thing, I was like, this is the key right here. Blood sugar, insulin. They used to call metabolic syndrome Syndrome X. Nobody ever heard of it in 2002. Now, today, even doctors know about metabolic syndrome. It's well recognized. It's everything syndrome, like an everything bagel. It's everything. Every single system in the body is affected by metabolic syndrome. What is metabolic syndrome? Insulin resistance syndrome. What is insulin resistance syndrome? The body's response to elevated blood sugar. And by the way, when you're not processing energy through the digestive system correctly, this will change how your body handles sugar. And when your blood sugar stays high, it will lead to bacterial overgrowth in the intestine called SIBO, which will lead to leaky gut. This is why I call this whole process the triangle of disease, because they all lead to each other. Digestive dysfunction leads to blood sugar dysfunction, leads to, if we want to go to the tip of the triangle, cortisol and thyroid issues, or adrenal and thyroid issues, leading to more digestive issues, and on it goes. They're all connected. So once you correct your digestive health issues and your blood sugar issues, because everything's connected, the whole system will start to settle down and start to resolve. And the only reason I'm bringing this up like this is because of simplicity. We simplify. You have bone problems, work on your blood sugar and your digestive system. You have skin problems, work on your blood sugar and your digestive system. You have movement disorders, work on your blood sugar and your digestive system. You have autoimmune diseases, work on your blood sugar and your digestive system. Get on the Mighty 90 essential nutrients, get on the I-26 and the ultimate enzymes and ultimate microbiome and ultimate enzymes and the nightly essence. And one of the beautiful things about longevity is we have all these incredible digestive health products. And if you haven't heard Dr. Joanne Conaway talk about the digestive system, she knows more about the digestive system than I'll ever know. She's forgotten more than I'll ever know. And she's a wonderful resource. And then you work on the blood sugar system. And we have all kinds of wonderful products for helping stabilize blood sugar. And of course, the whole thing is keyed into food.
And Dr. Joanne Conaway will be a guest coming up on the show very soon.
She's awesome. She is awesome.
She is absolutely fantastic. And, you know, I heard about metabolic syndrome in 2016. Thank you, Dr. Brimhall. And I was basically a poster child.
You were. That's exactly right. I'll bet you that was a huge part of how you lost weight.
That's a huge part. And the thing is no matter what I had tried, even after finding out about this metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance and, you know, all of these things going on in my body because of it, everything that I did prior to finding longevity and hearing Dr. Wallach's message, it wasn't helping. It had to do with what you mentioned, those micro and macronutrients that I was not getting in my body. And I was craving all of these foods that I thought were good, you know, grinding your own wheat, making things from scratch, leaving out all the preservatives.
Yeah.
But people don't realize just because it's not sugar does not mean that it doesn't convert to sugar.
Right.
In the body.
If you like it, it's probably sugar. Because the drive for sugar is hardwired. I mean, think about it. Our bodies are 2 million years old. Human in this form, maybe a couple 100,000 years old. And there wasn't a lot of sugar around a couple 100,000 years ago. Where would you get sugar a couple 100,000 years ago? Maybe some berries somewhere or some honey if you were lucky enough or you were intrepid enough to go into a hive somewhere. But there wasn't sugar today. There's sugar every 20 yards. You got a Snickers bar vending machine and a 7-Eleven. And so these hardwired drives for sugar are being used against us by industrial, corporate, demonic forces that don't care about us. And that's how you have to look at these things. You have to look at these people who are making the packaged foods and the Snickers bars and the French fries and the fast foods and all that as our enemies. They don't care about us. They don't love us. You don't ever want to eat food from anybody who doesn't love you. Right?
No. Well, and they're sneaking in that sugar into even the nut butters that are supposed to be good for you.
Yes. Even I go to Whole Foods. I go to Whole Foods and get turkey. I got to look at the ingredients on the turkey. It has sugar in it. The fast food. And by the way, of all the foods that are awful, and there's a lot of awful foods, near the top or at the top of the list are processed meats and deli meats. The stuff that's in a deli meat, if you can see how a deli meat is made, there's a lot of really yucky processed foods, but deli meats are really deceiving because they seem like they would be healthy. Oscar Mayer's Healthy Bites and all, they imply that these things are healthy. Those things are hideous. Hideous. Bacon, I don't know how that ever became acceptable. I'm sorry to offend anybody about bacon, but holy moly. That is one nasty food. And that's part of the tradition of how we eat. And while we're at the subject of bacon, breakfast is the most important meal to skip. Mm-hmm. When you skip breakfast, you extend the fast. Instead of breaking your fast, you extend your fast. And that means a longer time that your digestive system has a break. That's a longer time for you to go into ketosis and ketogenesis, I should say. That's a longer time for you to detoxify. So try eating at 11 or eat at 12. And if you notice after you eat breakfast, your typical breakfast, you're eating a typical breakfast, you'll notice you need a nap at 10 o'clock. You eat at 8 o'clock, all of a sudden you need a nap. The best thing you do if you want to eat breakfast, the best thing you could do is have some TMR or have a piece of fish, and that's it. You know, what's this whole idea of like pancakes and cereal and Danishes? You know the story of Edward Bernays? Did we ever talk about Edward Bernays?
I don't think so.
Edward Bernays was Sigmund Freud's cousin or nephew, Sigmund Freud's nephew. And Sigmund Freud was the first guy who to say that our behaviors are guided by unconscious drives. They didn't know that. Today we take it for granted that we have an unconscious and a subconscious that determines our behaviors. In the 1880s, when Sigmund Freud was working as a professor at the University of Austria, they didn't know there was an unconscious. They didn't know there was a reason why we did things. And Sigmund Freud said, not only is there an unconscious, but this unconscious is programmed to us in childhood. And Edward Bernays took that wisdom of the unconscious and the unconscious drives that we have to make that determine our behaviors, and he used it for advertising, and he used it for marketing. And he was the first guy to come up with the idea of focus groups. We have doctors telling, making opinions on what people should do. And he came up with the idea, it was actually a bacon company, the Applewood Bacon Company or Applewood Packing Company. They were making bacon. They wanted to increase their bacon sales. And he came up with the idea of breakfast being the most important meal of the day. And you got to have a nice egg and bacon breakfast every morning. And to this day, 100 years later, we're still doing Edward Bernays' breakfast. It was his idea. He was he had the Lucky Strike Tobacco Company. They wanted to increase their cigarette sales, and they figured that only men were smoking because women couldn't smoke. Because back in the day, women were second-class citizens; they couldn't smoke. And Lucky Strike Business Tobacco Company said, "Hey, well, how do we get women to smoke? We're missing half of the market here because women aren't smoking." So Edward Bernays got a bunch of models to march in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and smoking cigarettes, and he called them torches of freedom. He called the cigarettes torches of freedom, not cancer sticks, but torches of freedom. And so these models smoked their cigarettes in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And to this day, more women smoke cigarettes than men because of Edward Bernays. You might want to check into Edward Bernays. He wrote a book in the 1930s called Propaganda, which talked about a little tiny book. It's about 100 pages. Talked about how you manipulate large groups of people by using propaganda, by using messaging. Look what's going on in the world today because of messaging, because of insidious messaging. Because we don't even know which way is up and which way is down anymore because of all the messaging that's coming out at us. So this is where it becomes very important to be your own health authority and to see what works. And I know I wanted to make this short and simple, but we're already almost out of time. So let's take some questions.
So the healthy digestion pack, the healthy blood sugar pack, packs of freedom. Folks.
Yes, packs of freedom. Thank you, Rebecca. That's awesome. I love that. Packs of freedom.
And, yes. After having food poisoning from something that included processed meats, I will probably never eat processed meats again.
Especially in Newark at the airport.
Especially from the Newark airport. That's right. Never been the worst place in my life. But, we had a great time in Newark. And so I'm not going to hold the food poisoning against you, AJ. That was all on me and eating something I should not have eaten. Doc, I didn't get sick, like contagious sick. It was all digestive havoc. Well, let's go to hands. And folks, you've been listening to Pharmacist Ben Fuchs. Amazing message, Pharmacist Ben.
Thank you.
That is simple, folks.
Simple.
Blood sugar, digestion. Focus on those micronutrients to go with those macronutrients. Longevity makes it so simple. So get with your health coach. If you've not been working with anybody, make sure that you give us a call at 855-949-3377. I have a team of health coaches standing by to help you choose this journey and get your pack of freedom from dis-ease and continuing to feel miserable. So firsthand, AJ, what questions do you have for Pharmacist Ben today?
two made a name, and thank you, Doc and Ben, for always leading us in the right direction. I have what might be a kind of a Doc question, but the first one I want to do is just address is because you already are talking about it. I have one person who's concerned about your recommendation about fasting for 2 days because they said after 30 hours their heart started racing. And then in the chat, a woman is asking, should we be skipping breakfast and eggs altogether? So
No, there's no should here. There's no should. The less you eat, the longer you live. Period. The less you eat, the longer you live. Calories are work. Calories represent work for the body. Calories come from the word calor, which means heat. A calorie is a unit of heat. Higher calories, higher heat. Do you ever leave your iPhone on your front seat when on a sunny day? What happens to it? It turns off. Why do you have a little fan in your computer? Why do you have a fan in your engine? Mechanical systems don't want to be hot. Biomechanical systems even more so. So the body has a way of controlling the heat, keeping the heat down, keeping the heat regulated. Body has to stay at a certain temperature. The more calories you eat, the hotter the body will become. The more work it's going to have to do to keep the body cool. The more nutrients it's going to have to use to do its cooling work. Nutrients can be used for two purposes. They can be used to digest your food, or they can be used to make muscle and to grow and to repair and to fight immunity and to have a great life and to have good sex and to be fertile and to be young and all the good stuff. Or do you want to digest your food? What do you want to do? Digest your food or have sex? What do you want to do? Digest, right? What do you want to do? Digest your food or have strong muscles? What do you want to do? Digest your food or be able to think clearly? Well, obviously you need to eat. I'm not saying don't eat, but the less you eat and the more nutrient dense you eat, the better off you're going to be. Eating's for kids. When we get older, we don't need to eat anywhere near as much. Now, you need the micronutrients, and this is one of the beauties of the micronutrient supplement program that Dr. Wallach developed. You don't need as many calories once you have the micronutrients. The micronutrients allow you to get more energy bang for your caloric buck. You can use the energy from calories more efficiently if you have micronutrients. So as far as eggs go, have a couple eggs for breakfast. But if you don't eat, you're going to extend that period of time that the body can go through autophagy. You're going to extend that period of time that the body's not having to expend its resources on digestive functioning. You're going to extend that period of time that the body won't have to homeostatically adjust for the input of energy. So you're going to feel better the longer you fast. It's called break fast because you're breaking your fast. I'm not saying not to eat. Now, as far as somebody's heart racing when they're not eating for 30 hours, that's a system that's disturbed. So if your system is disturbed to the point where your heart's racing when you're not eating, because your heart shouldn't race when you're not eating, you should be able to handle a 30-hour fast. But if that's happening, fast for 12 hours until you get your body strengthening. There's no healthy person whose heart will race with a 30-hour fast. You can go 4 days without eating. You go 40 days without eating. You can go a long time without eating. Nobody's heart should race from a 30-hour fast unless the system is disturbed. If the system is disturbed, then don't fast for 30 hours. Fast for 10 hours. Fast for 12 hours. Fast for 14 hours. Do what you can do. I'm suspecting if the heart races, there's some thyroid issues probably, maybe some and usually some cortisol imbalances. That would be a disturbed system if there's some tachycardia or any kind of cardiovascular health challenge from fasting. So don't fast for 30 hours.
Okay, and thank you, Ben. And then just this other person wrote in, I've heard you say, and this is, I guess he's referring to Doc, I've heard you say you've been able to help people who are in a coma. I've had a 67-year-old, 5'7", 225-pound female in the hospital is unconscious, thought she had a stroke, not the case. The heart isn't pumping blood through her body properly, which is supposed to be causing some of the organs not to perform optimally or to shut down. They say the heart could stop at any time. The hospital refused to give her vitamins intravenously, so I gave her some plant-derived minerals to rub on her chest and belly. How do you suggest I get her to intake the pills and capsules when I can? Do I break them down? What's your suggestion?
Well,
is there anything
that's one of the coolest things about Beyond Tangy Tangerine. It's already liquefied for you, and that, let me tell you, that's a godsend for anybody in a hospital or anybody in a nursing home. Because Beyond Tangy Tangerine, well, and I've been using Tangy Tangerine when it first started, and Beyond Tangy Tangerine for almost 26 years now, pushing 30 years. That is an exquisite nutritional supplement. There is nothing like that on the market. Nothing, even close. That is such a powerful formulation because number one, it's dense, and number two, it's liquid. So it goes right to work. When you drink it, it goes right to work. When you're in a hospital, they own you. You're done. You are not a free agent in a hospital. When you're in the hospital, they own you. And their thinking is that the vitamins will interfere with the drugs. Okay, well, that's their thinking. Nobody forced us to go to the hospital. We went to the hospital. They own you. You signed something when you go to the hospital. You are not a free agent any longer in a hospital. So you can't go to a hospital and say, no, I want you to do this, but you do your stuff and I'm going to give them the nutrients. They get to say whatever they want. They can, obviously, we know all of us in this call and people listening on in the future know that there's never a time when you don't need your micronutrients. That's absurd, but that's how they think, and you're not free, so you can't really do that in a hospital. I've been known to sneak things into hospitals, and I used to sneak things into my dad in the nursing home. It was amazing what Beyond Tangy Tangerine would do to people who are deficient, because the sicker you are, the more you need the nutrients. The more drugs you're on, the more you need the nutrients. The more surgical procedures you're undergoing, the more you need the nutrients. And when the body needs nutrients more, it absorbs them quickly. So somebody in a nursing home is going to really notice Beyond Tangy Tangerine. You guys, that's the greatest gift you could give your grandmother or grandfather or friends or anybody you know in a nursing home, is the gift of Beyond Tangy Tangerine. You even have to put it in a bottle and give them a water bottle. Same within a hospital. Now, as far as a person in a coma, I'll let Doc answer that, because I don't know really how you would deal with somebody in a coma if they're being taken care of in the hospital. I don't know. You could stick a suppository in their butt, I suppose, but that's not going to really. I don't know what else you could do. They own their body. They own that patient's body. So I'll pass that on to Doc if Doc has any solutions for that. But if you're in a coma in the hospital, I can't really see what you could do.
Rub it on the skin. Rub it on the skin.
Will they let you?
Who were in coma for 2.5 months, and we had one of our distributors, who's a member of his church, rub half a teacup full of the plant minerals on the pastor Mike Freeman's chest, his belly, his back, between his shoulder blades.
And it got absorbed?
Not only absorbed, in 12 hours, he gets up and goes back. He's been preaching 10 hours a day.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
He absorbed all those nutrients through the skin that he couldn't get
in the conscious. In the what form? In the plant-derived minerals or the Beyond Tangy?
Yeah, just the plant-derived minerals. It comes in a quart bottle. Open up the
just
top.
rub the plant-derived minerals on there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. There you go. I hadn't heard that. I didn't know you could do that.
Just a dumb form boy.
Yeah.
I feel so powerful being on the screen with you two. This is like,
okay, wow, I'm not in Doc's league.
Now. And I got Becca too. Yeah.
Doc's the man. Doc's the man. I'm just helping out. I'm just his protege. I'm working with him. I'll tell the story how I met Doc. I should tell that story one day. I'm not going to take up time now, but it's an interesting story how I met Doc. You remember that day?
Yeah.
I said, Doc, I want to do that. That looks like something I want to do. And that was history.
Yeah,
you learned the Pastor Mike Freeman treatment. The minerals.
That's awesome. Rub it on.
The skin.
I did. That's good. I'm going to remember that. Thank you, Doc.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Wallach, very much for being here today as well. And so Pharmacist Ben, I have a quick question for you.
Yes.
Do you have a hard stop, or we passed it already?
We're a little past it, but let's go. What else do you have?
Okay. So you're talking about fasting and the energy. What if you're working with somebody that needs to gain weight?
You don't gain. Yeah, no, that's a good question. You don't gain weight by eating food. That's not how you gain weight. You gain weight by building muscle. I mean, I shouldn't say. Obviously, you'll gain weight by eating food, but that's not the kind of weight you want. You don't want body fat. You want muscle. You want lean muscle mass. That's what you're looking for. And the only way to get lean muscle mass is not with just food. You eat pizza all day and you'll gain weight. Is that what we really want? No, we want to be lean. We want to have strong muscles. Muscle weighs more than fat, by the way. So people don't just want to gain weight. Get that idea out of your head. You want to gain weight. You want to gain lean muscle mass. You don't want to gain weight. You want to gain lean muscle mass. How do you gain lean muscle mass? Number one, with micronutrients. with the appropriate balance of micronutrients and macronutrients, specifically protein, which is a building substance. Number two, with resistance training. The body will not build muscle if it doesn't have to. So you have to, especially as we get older, by the way. The body will not build lean muscle unless it has to. And as we get older, we tend to not do anything that tells the body it has to work. The body's designed to get better with stress in just the right amount. So resistance training tells the body to build. Fasting intelligently, in conjunction with micronutrients and macronutrients in the right balance, and resistance training will build muscle. Why? Because when the body senses there's no food, it will do everything it can do to allow the body to go out and hunt. Remember, we're talking evolutionary biology here. From an evolutionary biology perspective, under conditions of low calorie, the body shunts everything into an energy system that will allow the body to go find food, and that requires building muscle. So in conjunction with a macronutrient, micronutrient program, healthy start pack, and a low-calorie diet featuring protein, the ketogenic diet ideally, and strategic fasting, you will build muscle. When we talk about fasting, we're not talking about starving. I'm not talking about starvation. I'm talking about fasting in conjunction with micronutrient and macronutrient intake and resistance training, and reducing insulin resistance. Remember, insulin is feeding the cells. When the cells stop listening to insulin, not only does sugar build up, but nutrients don't get into cells. We become functionally starving when we have insulin resistance. When the digestive lining is damaged, not only do we have toxicity entering the blood through a leaky gut, but now we suffer from malabsorption because your nutrients are absorbed through the intestine. When the intestine becomes inflamed, it can't absorb nutrients. So you're functionally starving. So by fasting, you reduce insulin resistance. That allows nutrients to get into cells more effectively. You reduce inflammation at the level of the intestine, and that allows nutrients to get absorbed more effectively. This idea of fasting and losing weight is not going to happen if you do it carefully and strategically with a macronutrient, micronutrient supplement program and resistance training. We're not talking about starving. We're talking about fasting.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for that. Greatly appreciate it. We have time for another question?
Yeah.
All right. Phyllis, what questions are you bringing in for us today?
I will ask one of them since we only have time for one. Ben, Linda on YouTube wants to know what you think about oxalates.
Oxalates are a sign of disturbed metabolism. There are oxalates in foods, but oxalates are a waste product. When the body is when we're ingesting too much sugar or toxicity in general, and when cells are dying, oxalates will build up. There are oxalates in food that can contribute to it, but the big problem is toxicity and cell death. That's the real problem with oxalates. So you can lay off oxalates, but as long as your metabolism is disturbed and cells are dying, you're going to have oxalate problems. And also, by the way, this has to do with all crystallization, whether they're calcium oxalate crystal, whether it's oxalate crystals or calcium crystals. Crystallization and stone formation is a sign of supersaturation. When the blood becomes supersaturated, and bile for that matter, becomes supersaturated, crystals will start to form. It's like if you have a cup of water and you put a teaspoon of salt in the water, the salt will go in, it'll dissolve, and all of a sudden you still have a cup of water. You can't see any salt in there, right? But then you put a second teaspoon of salt, and again, it'll go in, it'll look like you just have water. You can't see any salt in there. Do a third, probably the same thing, and a fourth, probably the same thing. But a point is going to be reached where you put salt in and crystals will start to form. That's called supersaturation. And supersaturation of fluids will lead to crystallization. Supersaturation of the blood and supersaturation of the bile are secondary to toxicity and cell death. So keeping the system clean is the key to eliminating stones. Also, fluidization will help. When you fluidize the blood, and we don't drink anywhere near enough fluids that we should be drinking. Fluidization is important. Like you've heard, probably you're supposed to drink a gallon of water a day. I don't know if it's that much, but say it's half a gallon. How many people even drink a quart of water a day? Right? I mean, there's concentration of the bile and concentration of the blood are the real problem with stone formation, whether they're oxalate stones or whether they're cholesterol stones or whatever kind of stones you're dealing with. It's a sign of toxicity, it's a sign of supersaturation, and it's a sign of dehydration. There are oxalates in foods that will contribute probably, but you should be able to handle those. A healthy metabolism should be able to handle oxalates. If you have oxalate stones forming, I would be making sure I was increasing my fluid intake. I would be doing everything I do for my kidneys, kidney health. Obviously, the kidneys process the fluids, and the number one cause of kidney issues is glycation, or is damage from sugar to the blood vessels. So going on the whole blood sugar insulin thing, and of course the digestive thing, and it all boils down to the digestive system and the blood sugar system. Again, digestion, blood sugar, digestion, blood sugar.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Back up.
Billy, was there a second part to that question?
Well, I had another question from
You
her.
can ask that real quick.
Okay. She asks about the castor oil craze.
Castor oil, and I don't know if you know who the sleeping prophet was. You know who the sleeping prophet was?
No.
Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. You never heard of Edgar Cayce?
Oh, yes.
Yes, Edgar Cayce was the sleeping prophet, and he was pretty brilliant guy. He used to lie down on a couch and come up with these incredible stories about Atlantis and about mustard packs and castor oil and all these different remedies and things you could do. It turns out the castor bean, and beans in general, but especially the castor bean, is highly medicinal. It's so medicinal, the castor bean, and beans in general, but especially the castor bean, that it's poisonous. In fact, the most poisonous substance known is a substance that the CIA and the they used to call it the KGB, I don't know what they call it now, the FSB, they would stick this material on the tip of umbrellas, and they would touch you with the tip of the umbrella, and that's how they would kill people. This substance was called ricin, R-I-C-I-N, ricin, or ricin, some people will say. Ricin, some people will say, right? Ricin or ricin is known as the most potent poison on the planet. And guess where it comes from? Castor beans. Castor beans are highly medicinal and highly poisonous if you distill them down, if you distill the substances down. Nobody's going to die necessarily from a castor bean, but a lot of people will get reactions from beans. I'm in the skin business, and let me tell you, there are a lot of horrible cases of acne that aren't really acne, they're acne-like lesions, and they come from beans. Psoriasis and eczema and acne and arthritis and autoimmune diseases come from these legumes and these beans, which contain enzyme inhibitors. The reason beans and seeds are so potent and sometimes poisonous is because they are energy that's been trapped in inhibitors, because seeds aren't supposed to grow until the environment's ready for them to grow. So nature's equipped them with inhibitors, suppressants, biochemical inhibitors and suppressants that keep all that energy asleep, essentially. And those are the molecules that are so problematic, and castor beans have these molecules. However, there's a fine line between poison and medicine, right? And that's where the whole idea of pharmacia comes from, is using poison as medicine. And it turns out that the castor bean is also very medicinal, and people are using it for castor oil packs, and Edgar Cayce talked about these, for things like inflammatory conditions. The idea being that the medicinal properties of the castor bean can be leveraged in these castor oil packs. you're not going to change your life with a castor oil pack. If you have a digestive issue, you got streaming toxins coming in through a leaky gut, if you got dysglycemia, messed up blood sugar, I forgot to say this, by the way, you don't have to be a diabetic to suffer from messed up blood sugar. Diabetes is a brand name. The doctors own the brand name. Dysglycemia just means messed up blood sugar. It doesn't mean you don't have to have diabetes to be dysglycemic. And so if you have dysglycemia and you have a digestive health problem, castor oil pack's not going to change your life. It's probably not, it's not going to hurt you, but it's not, you want to really get to the root of the problem. Nobody has a castor oil pack deficiency, just like nobody has a drug deficiency.
We're better off getting back to basics, like you
Back
always
to basics.
say.
Healthy Start Pack, I-26, Fucoid Z, Ultimate Selenium, Sweeties. There's so many wonderful, incredible, powerful products. This is what Dr. Wallach has bequeathed us, and this is what we're all here to do, is to spread the word about the power of nutrition and the simplicity of these protocols, and not only the simplicity of the protocols, but the simplicity of the program. Look, you get these things drop shipped to you. You don't have to think about it. It comes to you every month in a pack that's perfectly balanced. You don't have to balance it. We've done it for you. It could not be easier. And if you do it correctly, I'll say it again. I said it before, I'll say it again. If you do it correctly and you leverage the 4 dimensions of healing, spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical, there's no way your health challenge will not resolve. It's not possible. 100%. You can't close your eyes and say, I will not get better. You will get better.
Great way to end.
Thank you. Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Becca. Thank you, AJ. You guys are awesome. Thank you, everybody who I can't see out there. Till next time.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, Pharmacist Ben. I know we went over. We appreciate your time and value all that you have to say. We could listen to you, as many have put in the comments. We could listen to you hours and hours and hours on end and never get tired of it. Day after day.
Thank you, everybody.
We want to just thank you. We want to thank Dr. Wallach, both of you, for all that you have done in empowering us as individuals and giving us the tools that we need with the knowledge that we can actually take action and have those packs of freedom, those freedom sticks at our disposal. But they've got to go in so that we dispose the waste out.
And Becca, you deserve some major props for what you're doing too, Becca. Major, major, major props. You're doing awesome. You're blowing us away. Congrats. Thank you so much, Becca, for everything you're doing. Thank you, everybody. And Phyllis, and AJ, you too. And Marilyn.
Yeah. So I just,
and Albert. Don't forget Albert from Australia.
They say there's 2 important days. 1, the day you're born, and 2, the day you realize your purpose. Well, I asked to know my purpose, and now I'm here. So thank you, everybody, for being here with us. You've been watching Daily with Doc. This is Pharmacist Fridays on Daily with Doc. My name is Becca Dukes. Make sure that you realize, 1, you are empowered. 2, it's simple, and longevity makes it even more simple by putting these packs together for you. Looking at what's going in, making sure that you're very intentional and leaving those things out that are causing destruction, and also making sure that you're getting the 90 essential nutrients with the macro and the micro nutrients that the body needs, not just to survive, but thrive. And you've got stuff going on. We've got stuff that can help the body be able to get balanced or realign so that you can function and have a thriving life. We have a call team standing by for those who have not ever spoken with or tried the products at 855-949-3377. If you have questions, you can email those questions to questions@dailywithdoc.com. If you would like more information about how you can join our crusade and be part of the solution with our Freedom Packs, you can email us at info@dailywithdoc.com. And if you don't remember any of that, go to dailywithdoc.com and use that contact option. Folks, you are empowered. Have a fabulous day, fabulous weekend. And don't forget to share this with others so they also can learn how empowered they are or can be in this thing we call life. My name is Becca Dukes. Thank you for to my co-hosts. I can't forget to say thank you to them because I couldn't do this without them. We've got Albert, and I know I saw Coach Rod, both of them helping let people in, keeping an eye on the chat. We have Phyllis and Marilyn, both putting valuable information into the chat, which folks, if you're just watching us out on the streams, you're missing some amazing communications here on our live Zoom, and that's only available in the live Zoom. So make sure that you join us Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going to be adding in some Tuesdays coming up starting this month at dailywithDocZoom.com. That is from 12 to 1 p.m. Pacific time. Again, dailywithDocZoom.com brings you right to our meeting, Pacific time, 12 to 1-ish. All right. So don't forget to join us. And AJ, thank you so much for helping us get this broadcasted out onto all the different platforms. Absolutely fantastic. Dr. Wallach, thank you for having the passion and taking your research and making it heard far and wide and suing the FDA and getting those nutrients in so that my babies could be healthier because I was getting nutrients that I would not have gotten otherwise. And for saving my life 8 years ago, Dr. Wallach. Thank you. Bye for now. Educational purposes only. The content is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any diseases, nor is it intended to take the place of your primary care physician. The statements in this program have not been evaluated by the FDA. Testimonials are shared as individual experiences of the individual. Results vary and may not be typical. We do not make any claims regarding health or income. As an empowered individual, you have options available. We are honored to have a founding father of the science of epigenetics guiding us with the best options to obtain or maintain optimal health, Dr. Joel Wallach.